just start greeting her with applause when she comes in.
Slow clap.
Hi, Susie Q. You can tell I had a mess in the parking lot.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started this evening, and we'll start with the good news from Mr. Sadoff.
Okay. Well, lots of good news, a lot of different things. Some of the more current things that are showing up on Facebook, we'll get to you in a couple of weeks in the next board meeting, but good variety of things. I had a picture in there. The top picture, those are donations that the Ellis Law offices collect each year for winter weather gear. They've done this for about 11 years, I think, and help Warren County schools. That was appreciated. There's a picture there of Joey Whirling. She was Best Female Vocalist in West Branch a couple weeks ago at one of the show choir things. And then down below you have Owen Hickson, who was Outstanding Performer in the show choir event. So lots of success there. There's a link for a scholarly journal article that one of our first year teachers at Emerson helped to write. Reed Ryder teaches kindergarten at Emerson. That was a very good article. You have some pictures from life skills class. They were doing a recycling project. Mrs. Wolf does a great job of kind of updating us on what that class does. And in the consent agenda later too, she has a request for a research project in that area that I hope you'll approve. Then we had Irving Art Project Family Night, at the bottom of that page. They also had a very good, successful book sale that night as well, book fair. I heard the next day the librarian talking to some kids coming in about how they had sold out of some popular books, so that's a nice problem to have, and they're going to order more. There's another link in there. Our transportation department was highlighted very nicely in the Iowa Pupil Transportation newsletter, and hopefully you get a chance to read that if you haven't. There's some wrestling news there. Clint Manny, our wrestling coach, was the 3A District Coach of the Year. Right around that same time, our wrestling team won both the regular season and conference tournament in wrestling. So we've been having some great success there. There's a note there about Jazz Band, and Jazz 1 getting their 9th consecutive Division I rating. And then at the bottom, a few pictures of the middle school job fair that was held. And the people speaking tonight were one of the presenters there too. We had a really good variety. I think there were at least 16 different people who were there presenting to the kids. And I know we've talked a lot about school to work and careers, and I know that was really great to get that going again in person. Last year, we were not able to do that. So lots of different things there, and more to come in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Art. Let's see. Anybody here to speak?
No one's here to speak. You're all presenting, is that right?
Yep, they'll have a presentation here in a little bit. I don't know if any board members had any reports.
Yeah, do you guys have?
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate Lacey Chernus. She's our 7th grade guidance counselor who was acknowledged by the Iowa State Department of Education about kind of counselor of the day for all the state of Iowa yesterday. So I've had some great interactions with Lacey, and it's just, she's worked so hard on our new mental health initiative too, and she's created some groups out there. Stop Out Stigma, which is a big group that now meets kind of during some lunch things, and she also has worked with Kyla on some stuff too about bringing in employee and family resources who are like prevention specialists on just a number of different categories. EFR works on the Integrated Provider Network grant, which is a grant ran by our Iowa Department of Public Health specifically for Warren County. And so really their goal for Iowa Department of Public Health is to integrate their specialist into a lot of the schools and the youth groups and whatever of that in Warren County. So Lacey's been a big part of opening up the doors and letting some of these specialists come in too. So very huge moment for Indianola there. Also wanted to say that we're working on, and we'll follow up with this later, mental health event for the public in March, so we'll follow up with that. We've had some good conversations about that. And then I just wanted to give a huge, so this last Saturday was a big show choir weekend at Norwalk, but the high school kids came over at 7:30 just to support the 7th and 8th graders. And they did not perform until 1:30 in the afternoon. And they were there at 7:30 in the morning. So their day that easily could have been like noon to 11 p.m. was 7 a.m. just for the purpose of supporting the 7th and 8th graders. And I don't think you see that very often. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that that's the kind of culture I think we all try to support here, is just that positivity around whether you're in, a high school or middle school or elementary or whatever, so.
Thanks, Sue. Anyone else? Any other board members? Is Tim on there?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Now we'll get into the consent agenda.
You have a revised personnel agenda. There are a couple of late adds there. Other than that, there's nothing really out of the ordinary in here. You have contract for prom. They've been using Adventureland for several years, successfully enjoying that. You have the equine therapy that I talked about last board meeting, and then the research proposal request that I just mentioned from Mrs. Wolf. So that's something, anytime we have somebody working on a master's or doctorate that wants to either interview our staff or do action research in the schools or whatever, we have a board policy that says the board needs to approve it, so that's why that's in there. So I did not put her whole proposal in there, but just enough to kind of give you an idea of what it's about, so.
Questions, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Ben. Seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, moving on to our presentations.
If you don't mind, when you speak, will you use the mic and the podium, and make sure we can hear you? Thank you. Thanks for being here. And introduce yourself. I know the board probably knows some of you, but.
Okay, is this good?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Kyla Banstra. Some of you I know, some of you I've known for a really long time, from high school days. I'm in a new position here. In September, I started as a student family liaison. And during my interactions with students this fall, it still is pretty apparent to me that we have students who are not connecting to school, who are still having issues with anxiety, stress, various things for various reasons. Some of that I think is maybe they don't have access, or traditional talk therapy isn't working for them. So I started thinking about an idea that I've had for many years. I'm a horse person. I know what my horse has done for me over the last 10 months. And so I met Laura Hutler, who's the equine director at Wesley Woods, and Ashley Stavig, who is the mental health counselor. And we also have Tiffany Cochran, who is one of our middle school counselors, who has a student that's involved, her daughter. So she's very connected with this program. So I texted Laura one day and just said, gosh, would you like to get together and start talking about some possibilities? So the three of us started meeting quite often and came up with this proposal that you have, I think, in your packets. And because they really are the heart of the program, and I'm just going to kind of be the person standing by, I'm going to let them give their presentation, and then Tiffany's going to talk a little bit about her experience as a parent. So I'll turn it over to these two.
Do you want me to go first? Or you stand first?
Oh, goodness. My name is Ashley Stavik. I'm a mental health therapist. I have a private practice in West Des Moines, and then I've been doing the equine therapy at Wesley Woods for the last 3 years. It'll be 3 years in a few days, February 13th. And I really just wanted to start out with saying thank you. Thanks for letting us be here, and we're really excited about this opportunity. So, and then this is my right-hand woman. I'm a mental health therapist, but she is the horse girl and the equine specialist, and Yeah, Laura Hutler, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Laura Hutler, and I tell, when I go into different groups and talk, I tell them, I am great outdoors with kids, and give me 100 kids in the middle of a fire circle, and I am perfectly fine. Give me you guys standing here staring at me, and I am like the deer in the headlights, or the horse in the headlights, whatever it is. So, Ashley's gonna have a little activity. I'm Laura Hutler. I worked with kids in camp for 30 plus years. I love what I do, and I love to watch kids have those aha moments. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm here asking to share your kids with us, to do what we do to help them. Ashley is gonna help us out with a little activity, just to kind of help you understand a little bit about what we do and why we do it with anybody, not just kids, but from big to small.
Yeah, so up on the screen you can see what is trauma. So trauma is any situation in which survival is an overriding concern and our brain has to make changes in response to that. So basically, a lot of us have the luxury of having a pretty rhythmic life, and you may notice that some of your students have an arrhythmic life. So I'm just going to do a really small activity. Sorry to make you do something, but if you can, just go ahead and find my rhythm and clap with me if you can. Okay, so Ray gave up, right? So when things become arrhythmic, we begin to adapt. We form new neuronal pathways in the brain. I'm picking on you, Ray, because I met you a little bit earlier, but you gave up. And we see that a lot with our students. It's a very good freeze response is an amazing way to stay alive. Some of you became a little anxious, right? And you're trying to anticipate what am I doing next? And so you're trying to guess and read my mind. And we all know that that's really hard. So that is just a really really small example of what happens when our world becomes arrhythmic and how we might respond to that. And then that's where we come in. We have been trained in a really great model that has given us lots and lots of tools to help people work through their traumas. And so if you want to go to the third slide. The biggest thing that we really want to provide your students is healthy connection, and healthy connection matters. Regardless of the task, the relationship is always the goal. So we're going to just go through a few key points. I know time is limited, but we just want to give you a quick insight of what we might be doing out at the barn. So we're going to teach your students rhythmic, predictable activities and patterns to use every day in life to help soothe their nervous system and build new roadways in their brain. So if there's a student that is experiencing bullying, hopefully the goal is, instead of operating out of their survival part of their brain, they can have a fully integrated brain that will give them more options to deal with somebody who is maybe bullying them, for example. The next thing that we do at Wesley Woods is we're always working for that integrated brain, which means we're working from the bottom up, which I know doesn't mean a lot to you, but it's really important for us that we're really trying to help your students create an integrated brain, new pathways, so they're not using the same pathways that are not working for them anymore. We want to lay the groundwork for building connected relationships that will help heal trauma, big and small. So relationships are the vehicle for change. And a lot of students, and adults for that matter, haven't felt supported their entire life. And so we want to start teaching them what is the felt sense you get with healthy relationships. Which brings us into why horses. One of the biggest things that we keep hearing about why horses is horses are safe for a lot of people. I'll let you do this part.
Yeah, why do we work with horses? A lot of times horses in therapy are a metaphor for what you're going through in your life. They're a thing, an object, an obstacle to be moved from place to place to learn leadership skills. Or they're a vehicle to help you heal in your therapy and then be deposited and you move on. We don't do that. Connection and relationship, like Ashley said, is the goal with the horse. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had a lot of hard human relationships in my life. Your kiddos in school have had a lot of hard human relationships in their lives, and especially in the recent history. Horses come into a relationship with no agenda. They're present. They are just there. They don't necessarily know what we want or why we're there. And it's then that we start to build, to learn to build a relationship from a regulated place. After we work through all of these different activities that we help kids to notice their body sensations, those things that go on inside of our body that tell us that we're not safe or that we're uncomfortable or that we're anxious or all those things. And when we can start to work through those things and work with a horse and ask that horse to be in partnership with us, true connected relationship with us, and that horse answers us, it gives us a whole new pathway in our brain to learn to take away from there and into our lives back home, into our lives at school. We have these little pathways in our brains that we've built up since the time we were babies, and gone through trauma. And the horse's brain works a lot like a traumatized human brain. It starts down low in the responses that want to keep themselves safe. And when we can help a horse learn to be safe with a human, they can learn to think for themselves and to be responsible for their own relationship. And lo and behold, we learn to be responsible for our own relationship and not be responsible for the junk that we get because of other relationships. So that's a lot about why we work with horses in this model. Working with a horse and a team, it's not just a therapist or just somebody teaching riding lessons. We do ride horses when there is consent. We ask a horse. There are days when our horses don't consent to do a lot of things. There are days when our kiddos don't consent to do a lot of things. And we teach those kids and those horses how to consent and not consent in ways that are okay, and ways that they can learn to take forward with them. So that's why we work with horses. Horses give us kind of an honest slate to work from. They don't have an agenda. When they come in, they're just present, and they're just there with us and for us. And you can talk to a lot of horse people, and they've learned a lot from their horses.
I just want to add to that horses give us a lot of biofeedback. So our body, there's a lot going on inside of our body. A lot of you look very calm right now, but some of you may have stuff. I look probably pretty calm, but I am freaking out on the inside, right? There's a lot going on. So horses give us that feedback. So humans, we can't always tell what's going on. Horses know, and after 3 years of this work, it is true time and time again that they are saying what is going on with that person. So one of our favorite things is to say that we are really trying to help our clients match their insides to their outsides so that they know how to navigate life. So, thank you, and here is Tiffany. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm Tiffany Cochran. I am the current 6th grade counselor at the middle school, but I'm not here because I'm a counselor. I'm here as a parent. And I'm going to try really hard to get through it. I actually wrote it because I'm probably going to be emotional. It's about my own child. So I wrote, there's no manual to parenting. No one parent is the same, and all parents bring their own, I'll get there, sorry. All parents bring their own emotional trauma to the table when raising kids, sometimes without even realizing it. As a mom, I know that my insecurities, my fears, my worries, my own childhood, and my characteristics have influenced how I parent for better and for worse. Additionally, I have a husband who's an officer in the United States Air Force. He has deployed on and off for weeks to sometimes months over the past 10 years. Although we believe ourselves to be very well-adjusted, loving parents, I know that not only my parenting background, but also his absence can create emotional trauma. And I thought that part, you guys knowing that about me was really important when I decided, or when I started to share my story about my daughter. If you know my daughter, you might have observed some of these characteristics. She has very strong emotions. She has literal understanding. She's stubborn. She has a confidence, sometimes with an I don't care attitude that's completely fake. She cares about everything. Very difficult time taking accountability and a significant dislike of being touched. So imagine being a mom who responds with touch, wants to hug her, wants to love her all the time, and she says, I don't like it. The feelings that she experiences on the inside, however, are vulnerability, fear, anxiety, worry, empathy, and also that deep love that she really doesn't know how to express or hasn't known how to express. She internalized these feelings and she made them known often through anger outbursts, especially when my husband would be gone. And it was mainly directed at us as her parents. As a counselor, I mean, you can imagine the guilt and helplessness I felt when my own personal training didn't work. And it didn't feel like I knew enough or I could do enough for her. And when your child hurts, you hurt. We tried talk therapy, and it was successful, but it was not what she needed. So we stopped that process, and a little over a year ago, I had an event. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader as well for 5th grade girls. Stella is in my troop. And we had an event for Girl Scouts at Wesley Woods where I met Laura. My daughter rode a horse that day. It wasn't the first time, but it was the first time in this kind of setting. When she was on that horse, she was carefree, she was worry-free, she seemed happy and confident and radiated just pure joy. There was a light in her that I hadn't seen in a long time. My first thought was, gosh, she needs horseback riding lessons. I've got to buy a horse. I'm going to get a farm. It's all happening today. Of course, that didn't happen, but I talked with Laura about it, and I said, what can you do to get me horseback riding lessons for her? She just loves this. And Laura, oh gosh, bless her, she spent the time that day to talk to me about lessons, but also said, you know what, you're a military family. We have this grant. Have you ever heard about equine therapy? And as a counselor, yeah, I've heard about it, but I didn't know that it was offered anywhere in Iowa. And I didn't really understand what it was. So she recognized a need not only for me, well, not only for my daughter, but also for me, and took the time to talk to me about it. And in a 60-minute session and conversation with Laura, I had witnessed the healing power of a horse. I immediately, I think I left there on the phone calling Ashley saying, help me, I want to get my daughter in this program. And within a month, she started. As they've already explained, equine therapy uses just a different technique to encourage time spent in the part of the brain that focuses on feeling first, and then, it's bottom to top, so it moves up to make those pathways. Stella, my daughter, spends a lot of time in the thinking brain. She doesn't spend a lot of time in the feeling brain because that creates this vulnerability in her that she has struggled with. The equine therapy program, through this program, my daughter was taught how to use observation to identify the feelings of the horse she worked with. For example, does the horse want connection? How do I get that connection with the horse? Does the horse want you to touch them? Do they feel safe in their surroundings? And in that process, she also learned about her own body's response to just the various stimuli around her. When she became in tune with her body, how her body feels physically, she became to start to identify the emotion that her body was actually struggling with, rather than simply letting it all out in a rage. Today, Stella continues to struggle. I mean, obviously, we all struggle. We're all learning. We're all navigating all kinds of emotions all the time. But it's so different. She starts her mornings with a hug from her mom every day. That's the first thing that we do. She gets up, she gives me a hug. This would have never happened a year ago. When she's angry, she's able to ask her what she needs. So she'll say, Mom, I need to be left alone right now. She uses phrases like, I was frustrated when, I feel like you, I get nervous when, I'm so sorry that, it makes me so happy when. And she also takes accountability when she needs to. So if there is a moment where we have an outburst, she goes to her room, she takes a minute, and she comes back and she says, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to look that way. How can we fix it? And we get to heal together. I cannot describe how much of an impact this program has had on our lives. And I'm a school counselor. So imagine how impactful this program could be on the students that we work with every day who maybe don't have my training, my knowledge, or access to parents who we believe are well adjusted. I believe in this program. I believe in these ladies. And I believe in the power that it can have for our students. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have a question. I'd just like Ashley, Laura, Kayla, and Tiffany, thank you for coming here. And all my time on the board, this is by far one of the best things I've ever heard. And I'm so glad we're getting involved in this. I think it's so important for our students right now. So thank you. That was great.
And all of us growing up all had friends who loved their horses, and their horses were their very best friend. And yeah, I get it.
Animals are awesome. No matter how bad a day I have, my golden retriever is always happy to see me. Animals are awesome. So thank you guys. That was awesome.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
One more important thing to note too, yeah, we work with and partner with horses. This method works even without horses because of the things that kids learn to understand about themselves and the emotions and things that they can come in connection with, so. Yeah, the horses are perfect, but.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh.
Next is our board HR committee meeting report.
Just go ahead and take one with you, it'll be good.
HR, all right.
Is the sign page?
Whoops.
Sign what? Is that your realm part? I'm just trying to make sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
HR? Board meeting? All right. All right. So we met, we talked about the associate survey. Of our 103 associates, we heard from 45, which I suppose is all right for a survey response. Some of the responses are up on the board. As far as favorite part of the job, most common answer was working with students. Least favorite part of the job kind of goes along with working with students, just student behavior. What tools, if any, do they need to complete their job duties? The biggest things were access to technology, which we've heard before. That was kind of the big takeaway of there. I don't think the survey revealed anything necessarily new that we weren't already aware of or haven't been discussing on ways to do better at. We talked about it, we approved it last meeting. I talked about the new principal at Whittier. About the elementary at-risk coordinator position opening for next year. And we also, the big takeaway, or big thing was we talked about substitute pay, raising substitute pay by $10 an hour. Or not an hour, $10 a day, sorry.
Got some people excited there for a
That's quite a
second.
raise, $10 an hour.
Wow,
$10 a day.
Really happy.
Yeah, and that I believe is later on, that'll be a board action item. Else, Sue?
The long-term
or
sub pay was
Donna.
increased too. Yeah.
Long-term sub, yep. We talked about, we reviewed the current process for teachers using leave on a day scheduled for parent-teacher conferences. Kind of how the conclusion we came on that is, it's kind of like you're using, if you take leave, you're making up that parent-teacher conference at a later date, more than likely anyway, so it's really a wash as far as like overall time or days worked, if that makes sense. I feel like I did a really poor job explaining.
Well, we have that, we have what's sometimes called a comp day, you know, the Friday after conference is off. But in order to make that work, to sort of make up that day, you know, you're really counting each conference day as a day and a half because you have those extra hours at night with conferences. So it really becomes kind of a little bit of a math problem, I guess, you know. So in order to have that Friday off, we log Tuesday and Thursday as a day and a half instead of a day. So that does come up, then, you know, if somebody needs to take leave on that Tuesday or Thursday. Is that a pretty good summary? Okay.
Yep, if they do need to take leave on those conference days, they're charged a day and a half of leave, because that's a day and a half worth of leave they would be missing, so.
And the last piece was just a list of positions that are still open. Some have been filled. The elementary principal at Whittier, it's been filled. Instructional coach for extraordinary learners with the TLC funds. Still searching for that technology integrationist.
We sure had updates since our meeting, but this is kind of that laundry list of what's out there and what requests do we have, and I know we're trying to make decisions about new positions and how to fill them. You know, it's always nice to see what requests have been out there, so we're not kind of nickel and diming some of the requests and missing some of the bigger pictures. So I've been trying to keep a running list of requests.
I do have a question. Librarians, and I don't know this answer, so hopefully I don't sound ignorant, but can they, if we get one for each elementary school, are they, could they help with some of the technology that now we have for all those kids in that school? Would they help assist in that at all? Are they skilled? I guess my question is like, are they, like, you know what I mean, Ray? If we decide we want to go librarians in each school, could we somehow couple it with education to also help
They usually do have some skills in
help
that area.
troubleshoot
They do it with fourth and
Chromebooks,
fifth
really?
grade and
Right.
third.
Right now, our librarians and the associates do help out. Now that we're one-to-one in the elementary, we don't require them to, or ask them rather, even to do a lot of troubleshooting, but more they swap out devices at this point. And if something's not working, they go through a sheet that we've given them of basic troubleshooting, but it's pretty minimal.
I was just looking at that and I was like, I wonder if you can get kind of two birds with one stone there. If technology department
It's
still
worth-
is low on, and technology still needing some help, is there any?
For what it's worth, we actually did approve a new IT support specialist tonight. That was on the consent agenda, and then we actually have quite a few applicants for our integrationist as
Okay,
well.
okay.
So that's a plus.
When for the fifth grade, or for the fifth graders come, they also have a longer library time than the younger kids. The younger kids only have a half an hour. By the time you set out things and set that all up for kindergarten and first grade and even second, it takes about, by the time everybody's on the page that you want them to be on, you've lost about 10 or 15 minutes. So you don't really have that much time to actually do instruction, whereas the fourth and fifth graders and the third graders can come in and pretty much.
I guess I was
get it.
thinking, because they're shared at schools right now, right? So if
Yeah.
we take that other school away from their current position and fill those hours more with technology support, then those would be hours normally spent at a different school. That's just what I was. It's a thought. I have a lot of thoughts, but I thought I'd just bring this one to the full table.
I have a thought too while we're on it. I'm not on the committee, but what does that look like for those additional requests? How long do they sit there? Do those just sit there through the end of the school year and then they have to be re-requested? Or is that something that just constantly gets?
Some of these things have been on here for a while, and as we look about where our needs are and what our what makes the most sense. So one of the things that we've really tossed around a little bit is that the fifth grade position at Laura Ingalls Wilder is fourth grade. bigger than, they're not too big, they haven't hit the max, but they might be a little bit needier grade, there's more special ed in that grade, but does it make sense to have to add a fifth grade section, or does it make sense to, do a behavior strategist? When Jonna says we only have this bucket of money, how do you wanna slice and dice it? And, some of those things we're able to make administratively, and some of those things come to the full board to try and decide. But if you don't have a full picture of what other things are out there, it's harder to be able to make those decisions.
Can you elaborate, Art, like when we usually look at deciding those types of bringing on new people, what time of year and stuff? Or
Yeah, I mean, it does vary a little bit by position. For example, the technology, if we had a DLE support specialist, or some technology people, the support specialist would be a good example. That would not be on a teacher's contract. You wouldn't be having to kind of sync up with when, is there a mid-year graduate from a teacher program or a normal spring hiring time? It'd be more like just what can you find out there in the market. We hired another nurse. We did that, the last district nurse we hired. We were interviewing in July. Okay, that would have been pretty late for a teacher hire or to have a teacher pool, but it was fine for that. So some of it just depends on the position. When it comes to people who will be on a teaching contract, we did have some things that we had posted that came out kind of late fall that we just weren't able to fill, and then we needed to repost. So some of these things with some of those ESSER positions, those federal dollars, we've kicked the can down the road a little bit for the sake of the pool and made it a next year position. So, typically teaching positions, you'd like to get out in front of the busy hiring season, which, really definitely takes place in March for sure, by the time you get to March. And that's one reason too that several years ago we put in the early notice for resignation. Give a little bit of impetus to that employee if they think they're going to leave or they know they're going to leave. Let us know, in November, by November 15th for 1,500 or by January 15th for 1,000. That allows us to get out in front of a busy hiring season. And we have other advantages too we've talked about. We pay well, we're a great place to work. All those things kind of come together. But in some of these specialty positions too, there just aren't a lot of applicants if you're in a shortage area. We've talked too with our IT salaries of just trying to get in step with the market a little bit more so we can keep people. I don't know, anybody else who's been in these conversations, you want to add to that?
For the most part, our positions we're filling positions that already exist today, but when we have new positions, we're looking to add new positions, it really comes down to how many dollars do we have? And I think mid-February, Jonna kind of gets a good idea of what the state's going to give us next year, and so whatever that looks like, well, maybe we'll be able to add a couple more positions, but maybe we won't. So, and then once we start filling some of the positions that we have, if we have, tenured teachers that are more expensive, and we happen to fill them with cheap teachers that aren't as expensive, and we kind of balance that out. And I know Jonna at some point will provide you with a list of, here's where we are, here were our payroll costs last year, and here's where we are for next year, and then we'll know what that difference is, and if we can add anything else on this list, or if we can't add anything else on the
We
list.
still have to be able to fit in those 4 positions, if not 6, from the ESSER 3 funds,
Yeah, those
starting next year.
Right.
That's a great point about the timing, those dates where we learn things we don't necessarily control, like October 1st, student count, we learn, because that funds then the next year. And then we get to the legislature, what are they going to give us for state supplemental aid? And we usually learn that sometime
I thought we'd know by now.
February or March. I mean, they were saying it was going to come early this year. There was a year where state supplemental aid wasn't set until after the new fiscal year. It started in July. Well, that's impossible to plan for, at that point. So those are things we don't control, but that information trickles in. And then some of those other considerations, like Mimi said, for example, as it stands right now, if you're going to hire another librarian, okay, they're gonna have a master's in library science, so that's going to be, an expensive employee. I know there was a bill talked about to not require a master's for librarians, but then I don't know what that does to the training component of it. And those specialty jobs that we talked about too, sometimes that happens with special education, definitely happens with upper level math or science. If we're teaching something for college credit, there just are different demands for different positions.
That helped.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you guys do next with that associate survey?
Oh, the survey.
I disseminated it by building. I think all but 4 of those responses put down that was optional. Building and name were optional, and so I disseminated that to the building administrators, and they're working through some of those things. I know there was an easy one the other day where somebody wanted an adult-sized chair in the kindergarten room as opposed to the one that's like 10 inches off the ground. That was a quick win. We got that one solved for them. So what I'm really trying to do ultimately is open that dialogue between the associates and the building administrators, and I pushed them a little bit to make sure here's your data, and maybe you know the people and maybe you don't know. Maybe they didn't put their name in there, but find a way to make that connection and see how we can best support them.
Any other questions on the HR committee from anyone? Move on to the 2021-2022 substitute teacher pay rate increase.
Make a motion to approve an increase of $10 to the daily substitute teacher pay rate and an increase of $10 to long-term substitute teacher pay rate, effective February 1st, 2022.
Motion made by Ben, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thanks, Tim. Okay, next is the technology committee meeting report. Was it you and I?
And me.
Sue? The 3 of us? Sue wanted to take all this, I think.
No.
I think she wanted to talk about the stack there.
I'd like to explain to you what all these circuits mean that you see
Yeah.
up here.
So the server.
I'm just kidding.
I'll sit back and listen to this, I'm kind of curious too.
So those photos are the results of the server infrastructure project update there. And it essentially took a whole bunch of space into smaller space. That's what I got.
All the stuff in red, it's being
Yes.
removed, so.
No longer. Let's see here, if I can remember this. Oh, wait a minute, I don't remember this now. Emergency Connectivity Fund update. That was money, I think.
That was the funding for the elementary devices.
Oh, okay, yep.
And Ray has applied for round 2. I don't know if you've heard anything yet.
That's actually in there too, that we had applied for round 2 for middle school and high school, and since this meeting, we actually did get approved for that as well.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, great.
So-
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Ray's good at getting stuff approved, like those requests approved.
Good job, Rick.
It's nice that IT can bring in money every now and again.
It's pretty much a flow through, Donna says.
It's an expensive little department.
Wait a minute.
So Ray, I just have just a question. I went out to one of the elementaries on Friday because they'd had the rollout of the Chromebooks for the kindergarten, first grade teachers, and they thought it went, pretty well. Actually, especially the kindergarten teachers' concern was that, they were taking them home because they have to charge them at home. And they said, so we're putting these in a bag with wet boots, wet coats, and water bottles. And they said they're waterproof, but are they truly, really waterproof? They were worried about that.
I gotta say, I'm honestly not too worried about that. I mean, as far as, the cases are good cases on them.
Okay.
I'm really not too worried about it, to be honest with you. I mean, we've had first day
I mean,
some
I
kid
looked
dropped
at
it.
them,
It was-
you know, I was
yeah,
looking
they're
at
pretty
them,
solid.
wow, yeah.
And I think they only take them home 2 or 3 days a week, not every night. Because I know the.
Fourth and fifth grade, most of them take them home every night.
My
That's
third
what,
graders bringing hers home every night.
yeah, I don't know, that's just what the teacher.
Not mine.
And so they're,
This was it, not yours.
they are working to bring them home more as February goes on. You know, I actually have a list of comments from teachers going around the district, and I'm hoping to get those sent out to you guys before now, but you'll see that in an email as well. But all in all, the charging thing, you know, there were some teachers concerned about that. That has gone very, very well.
I talked to him, said it went well.
Yeah, the whole thing has actually gone very well and had very positive feedback from our staff. And so it was, to be honest with you,
Yeah, that was the only
January,
concern.
February, in the first part of February, it's kind of been the highlight of my year because I got to go hand some of those out, and just the good stuff I've heard that have happened in the classrooms it's been
We were
really.
very excited.
You guys have done a nice job of the emails and the text messages about the Go Guardian, the way to protect or see what your kid is on. Because I know that was a big concern for elementary, because YouTube, I mean, she came home instantly and went on YouTube, and I was like, you can get on YouTube? Like, what? But then, if you go into some of those applications that Ray was talking about, like, you can go in and you can even go all the way down to schedule the time the Chromebook shuts off. So it can shut off at 8 p.m. and not turn back on till 8:05 at school. And so there's lots of measures that parents have that can be set up and guarded against once those are at their homes.
Yep.
So I know recently there was a text message and an email. And I appreciate you doing it both ways, because there's some people in our district that can't get those type of text messages on their phones and have them open a link like that. So thank you for doing an email too.
Yeah, I heard nothing but good things about the rollout. The only question I had, and some teachers have asked, do we have extra charging cords just in case a student forgets to charge theirs so they can, they can still participate? Or is that something we can work on?
So actually,
later?
you probably were asked that prior to something happening, but we actually did provide 2 in the classrooms that are grades 3, 5. And then in K1 and 2, we have some charging stations in there. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to really have the kids be, very responsible bringing those in. And actually, I said that's worked out very well from everything I've heard from teachers, but there have been a few cases. And so, we do have a charger in those rooms for those cases.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I asked my kid what his password was, and he was very adamant that he cannot share it.
Especially now with you, you're kind of shady.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So you've done a good job hammering that home, password security.
In my house,
Yeah, so thanks, Ray, that was good.
How many students do we have that their parents elected for them not to have a device?
I have to tell you, I have not collected those forms yet, and so I don't have that number for you.
My daughter is constantly measuring. Mrs. Cooper says I need to have my water an arm's length away.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Like, Mom, you need to move that.
That's fantastic.
So what you got approved for the second, is that what goes to fund the middle school, high school?
It does,
That's
yes,
what- cool.
exactly.
And
So that'll
we
help
talked
for middle
about,
school,
they
high
were
school
going
kids.
to we were getting away from what they currently have
Yep,
at the middle
so-
school and high school, and we were switching to enacting Chromebook style, right, for them.
Exactly. So the high school, with the middle school, they'll get Chromebooks again, but it's a different model, a little more updated, touch screen. Can have a stylus used with it, a pretty nice device. High school will be a little bit bigger transition because that'll be going away from a MacBook Air to a Chromebook.
And that'll be in the new funding.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then, is
Hopefully we're
that,
having those before the end of the year.
yeah, when's that rollout looking at? Hope.
We are trying to get an ETA on the devices. Right now, that needs to, the way things are written, it should happen before the end of the year. But as we all know, right now, things don't ship exactly like we expect them to, so.
And then we spoke about screenagers, and Sue's working on getting that set up.
Yeah, so tentatively, we are going to do the same kind of setup at the movie theater like we did in the fall. I think we did in October, right? Looking at same kind of setup, renting out the theaters. And our tentative date is Tuesday, March 22nd. So the week we return after spring break. 2 different showings on that day, an earlier one and a later one. The one in the fall brought around 300 people, so.
It's a board meeting day, just so you know.
Oh, that's right.
Well, I won't be here then.
It's also right around March Madness too, but.
It's also my daughter's birth, so you know what?
Well, you do set your meetings, maybe we just have one March meeting instead of two. And
But we have one on March 1st and March 5th and March 8th and March, so I think we could maybe be tapped out in March by the 22nd. So, but we are working on it. This has been something that we have had a lot of the public ask about after the first one, about the follow-up. And we are looking at running the first one in a theater and then the second one. So if you missed the first one, you can actually get them both in that night if that's something you want to do.
Is there popcorn?
Yes, concessions will be open. That was important for everyone too last time, because the line was up for concessions.
I had one more technology question for you, Ray. It's not on there, but I've had a couple of different teachers that have reached out about the print shop not having access to everything that they've had to.
Right.
In the past.
For sure.
Are machines not working, or are we just not getting supplies, or what's?
We have two issues, both actually. One is we did have a kind of a unique machine die, and so I've gotten a quote, one, for that particular machine, but the bigger issue is really supplies. We cannot, our large copiers that are like 2 tables long, those big copiers, we just cannot get the toner for those. Those are not, that's the other machine, that's a very unique machine, that's not being manufactured by very many people, for very many companies.
Later purchase?
Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, I said unfortunately, we are just kind of at the mercy of the supplier right now. We did find one on eBay this week, so we got one order coming in, but kind of hurting in that area.
Any further questions from the board members on the tech committee meeting report? Okay. Move on to the middle school interior renovation project. That'll just be need approval.
So to begin our process, as we look at the middle school library, the area that was offices, I believe, that's what we're partitioning off. And then in the back of the building where the special ed area is, the industrial tech will move to a special ed classroom. So those are the two, that's what they're doing. Once we get this going, then they can start the process, so.
Yeah, those are the same renovations that we talked about probably several meetings ago, yeah.
Motion to approve the middle school interior renovation project.
Motion made by Ben,
I'll second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the wait a minute.
Really long contract.
I gotta get through that. Next should be the 20.
Just write it down.
All the evaluations.
Evaluations. We received our current, 2023 for our 2022-23 budget. Again, our supplemental aid is not set yet, so each time I can bring you something more for the budget. This is the one thing that we can this month. So as you look at the bottom, you can see that the last couple of years, 3% is about where we end up as an increase in valuation. But it is interesting to go back and see. Every once in a while there was some really big increases, and then there was one time that it was actually negative. Sometimes when they reset the values, that can cause that. So going up is much better than going down in this because now we have more value that can be spread out over our budget. So as we work towards, tomorrow I go to a budget workshop. Well, it's with John Parker, who is an Indianola grad. He does a lot of the Department of Management through the state work on the budget. So he's presenting at a meeting I'm at tomorrow. So hopefully we'll know more. I mean, not that he has the crystal ball that tells what the state's going to do, but we're hoping it's over 2 at least. So this is more just for information.
Okay. Then the next item is the SBRC request for fiscal year 2022 preschool funding.
So because of COVID and because of the pandemic, they gave, in last legislative session, they allowed for an increase in enrollment in your preschool. Because we missed it last year, or everybody did. When we had an increase this year, we're allowed to request, and this, you know, when I say we request, SBRC a lot of times gives us budget authority, does not give us cash. This is both. So this is, you know, so the $79,497, that's to help our preschool program. The preschool program is pretty healthy now, and remember, we've talked about taking some of that money and helping offset our negative balances in our lunch funds. This then more than offsets that. So, I mean, we've got this piece that we have to send into the Department of Ed so that they can process it and we can get those funds. And then we'll do the other piece once the audit gets completed, so.
I need a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the resolution request additional FY '22 preschool funding.
Motion made by Sue. Seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. Motion carries 7-0. Next is the Board Facilities Committee meeting report.
We met at the high school, just to be in the auditorium. The auditorium looks fabulous. Still a few panels on the back that haven't arrived yet, but as a whole, they have been hosting lots of different things in there, and it sounds good, it looks nice, really nice. The other thing we kind of talked about when we were over there is just about some of the properties that the school district currently owns, and once we have our new facility, food, utility building, maintenance, all that building, are there areas that we can either get rid of or use in a different capacity? And so we talked more about these 4 different units on the storage area on North 14th. That just has been really handy for us when we've got buildings under construction. That's where a lot of the desk and the furniture and all of that goes, so. So probably a space maybe we might not need once we have the entire new building up here with transportation, but probably to hang on to it until that project is complete. And then just the former DOT site on North 9th, former high school ag shop, and then the former district office. We had a lot of talk around some of those areas would make good parking lots, more space needed, obviously, and stuff like that. So just looking at, more just putting it on our radar as to what those are ours and what we could do with them. So understanding too, keeping in mind with our high school, if we end up going up or out or wide or wherever with it, that could take up some of those spaces as well, so.
It is just for front of mind, so you guys, I mean, as new board members, these are areas that we have. I don't see anything happening in the near future, but to keep it in, up so you know that we have those.
Next is the facilities projects update. Just did the auditorium.
Yeah, Sue mentioned the auditorium, waiting on a little bit of acoustical tile there. Auxiliary services building, we're getting closer. We did have a little delay because we took another look. You know, we're doing programming for these different departments, and food services when we looked at. We actually were able to eliminate a loading dock by being able to back up directly to the door. And that's going to allow us to reduce the concrete and the footprint of it a little bit too, so there'll be a little bit of cost savings and a little more green space kept, and also is more in line with what food services used to with deliveries. So that was kind of the latest conversation. Still working through a few things with updated city codes I've mentioned before in terms of like landscaping requirements and driveway requirements. So we're working through that. We've received a second review from the city on that.
When do we expect all that then to the board?
Probably, will that be the March meeting, John?
I think so. They
March
pushed it
8th?
back because of some of these changes that they've been discussing. So we want to make sure it's right. And the thing that we think about with this type of building is it doesn't have to start, we don't have to end at an August 1st date because they're.
Yeah, we're not getting ready for student occupancy. We know there's going to be lead time on those precast panels. So, some of the time urgency, isn't there, yeah. So, task force group meeting we had postponed. We're supposed to have one last Tuesday, and some things happened on the architect side, I think. So that's been rescheduled for the 17th, I believe, night of the 17th, the next one there. Seclusion rooms, same thing, supply chain thing, waiting on some padding. That area is framed, it's ready to go. It's just waiting on that. And then the contract you approved tonight will allow planning to go forward with the renovation of the middle school.
Thanks, Art. Next is the board policy committee meeting report.
We did meet a couple of, there were a lot of reviews and no significant changes. The two policies that I think we did the most with, there was one on resident students that we added quite a bit of verbiage just so people understood the legal aspects of that, what makes you a resident or non-resident student. And then with the video, access to video, making sure that we explicitly said that our school resource officer could access that without delay. And that if we had an emergency, that other emergency personnel could review that. Donna or Ryan, I don't know if there's anything else.
I didn't memorize all of them, all the policies, I didn't do that.
It was
Ryan probably did.
did you find it to be a scintillating first policy committee meeting?
I know exactly what I did, I was hyping it.
It's big shoes to fill, so.
We're not even gonna
You know,
try.
don't expect your first year to, really feel comfortable in it. Big shoes to fill there. You might settle in year 2.
By year 4, you'll be in good shape.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, and that's the one committee you're actually on for 3 years. Did we forget to mention
The
that?
trick is you gotta find the typo before Art does, though. That's like, good luck. Good luck.
I did actually find one.
Yeah, you did, that's right.
Yeah, I did actually.
It took Ben, I think 18 months to find his first meeting. You did it in the first meeting.
I was only on the committee for 16 months. We need to approve these.
Yeah, we do have
I'll
an
make
action
a motion to approve the board policies as listed.
First reading.
First
First
reading.
reading.
Yeah, first reading.
Second. Motion made by Ben to approve the first reading, seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, and next is our calendar.
Is that special meeting, is that Saturday one, March 1st?
No,
No?
March 5th is a Saturday.
Okay, yeah,
The
I see
5th is a
now.
Saturday, and the 8th is.
Got it.
First is,
Tuesday.
It's gonna be a busy week.
I was about to say, I'm the
Facility
1st, the
folks.
3rd, the 5th, the 8th.
oh yeah, we talked about like if, about,
I won't be here for that February 24th policy meeting. I don't know, we're ahead if you and Ryan want to do it, if you want to change it. I'm good
We
with
are
it.
ahead. We can do it by, we have any access to email, or you just want Ryan and I to handle it?
I'm kinda
Are you gonna be
Yeah.
enjoying yourself?
Likewise, I will not be here for.
It'll be a different time zone and everything, you know?
Okay, we can handle, are you around the 24th, Ryan, for that? Yeah,
But I'm going over.
yep, okay, we'll just,
Tuesday.
Donna, you did such good work that first time, we'll handle the next one.
John and Matt won't be here next Tuesday. Do you still want to just,
We can do it, we can have it, or we can change it if it depends on what you guys
Next
want.
I
Tuesday.
say we can just have.
Finance.
Just have it, okay, okay.
And that's fine, I can come in when I get back.
Yeah.
And pick that up.
He deserves a vacation.
We'll see. I hope we get there.
Okay. And then, there's a facilities meeting on March 3rd. Are you guys wanting to keep that, just with everything else going on those days? We just talked about maybe
I
not
don't,
having.
We may not
I
have a bunch
don't think
right
it would be a must.
Yeah, we could.
I'm not on it, but I was just being an advocate for whoever wants to not have it.
Yeah, I would be fine with scratching that.
Okay.
Should everything be wrapped up by the 10th then?
Not by the 3rd. Is that what you mean?
By the 10th, like the curriculum committee? I just don't want to overload
The week of the
everybody
7th
during
is
the middle of
the
this.
final, would be the finalist interviews, and that would, depending on when those are and how many of those are, that would be, the 10th could be,
10th is a Thursday.
Yeah.
It could be a day when we have,
maybe.
yeah. What are your thoughts on it? Like, would that be,
I think if there's anything that I needed board action on, I could just put it onto the board agenda
okay. So we can just kind of strike that one.
for the March one.
Okay.
And you need to think about the 15th is spring break for the finance, and I put it on there.
I'll be here that week.
You'll be here that
Yeah.
week. I'll be here.
Are you working spring break? Yeah, okay. I'll be here.
Sounds like we've all got big spring break plans.
We're all here in March, that's why I'm leaving in February.
Do we want to go ahead and cancel the second March meeting? Or do we want to wait until the next meeting to do that?
Let's wait till the next meeting because there are budget timelines that I have to make. So it could be a short one, but I think I
Yeah,
need that.
I would agree, let's wait.
Okay. Next agenda. So now we just, now we go into our
Secret search process.
You want to come sit up here at the table and start? Yeah, come on up. Yeah.
Have a good night.
I can't feel your chair, but I'll sit there.
It's one size fits all.
Go for it, Lyle.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Kim is with her husband who had some surgery yesterday, and she needs to be there instead of here, so that's why I'm flying solo with you tonight. I'm going to pass around an agenda of the things that we're going to cover. So the first thing, just as that comes around, excuse me, the input meetings overall went well. I think that the tally for the people that we met on those 2 days was 83. And the number of people who submitted the online stakeholder report, I believe, was 194. So you had really good response and really good input from those. Do you have a copy of the, Jonna, did you give him a copy of the stuff that I gave you? So you guys have a copy, have seen a copy of the notes that we took at those 8 meetings on February 1st and 3rd. I didn't make extra copies here, I just,
They're digital, it's in your packet.
okay. At the top, it says Indianola Community School District Stakeholder Group Input Executive Summary. So there's 2 pages of that, and then there's 19 pages of the notes that we took on those 2 days. Just to break it down, we had 20 middle school students, we had 12 support staff, we had 6 elementary teachers, we had 14 in the parent community group, we had 17 administrators, We had, and the reason that number is higher, because we just met with them during their regular admin meeting to be efficient for them. We had 6 high school students, we had 8 middle school, high school teachers, and we had 8 people from the business community. And so that, I think, I did it mentally, I think it adds up to 83. So, I don't know if you've had a chance to read through this. I'm gonna just kind of go through it a little bit. I don't want to read it to you, but we asked 4 questions. The first question was, what are the greatest assets of the greater Indianola community? And you can see those there. Great recreational opportunities, safe, friendly, caring community. Every group said this: we have a nice sized school with a small town feel. And honestly, you know, I've been mostly in smaller schools, but that kind of baffled me. And I thought it was awesome. But I also told some of the groups that Indianola by enrollment is the 27th largest district in the state. So I think it's a great, great testament to the school district, to the people in it, that's the feel, a small town feel with a larger school district. Certainly Simpson being here and proximity to Des Moines, you know, local celebrations, proud traditions, supportive community, investment in infrastructure throughout the community like the fiber, supportive problem-solving community, great place to launch a career and affordable. So those were the things that came about from the groups. This is a summary of the things that we heard most often. What are the strengths and assets of the school district? Fiscally responsible, strong parental support, pride, strong teaching staff, longevity, the year-round school, you know, elementary came up as a strong positive. Buildings overall are up to date, yet when we get to the last question, there was some comments about that as well. The food service, the transportation before and after school, childcare, all those programs are exemplary. Technology, a stable district that garners support, stable to growing district that garners support of all learners at all levels. A great variety of extracurricular and co-curricular activities for all the students, especially in middle school and high school. Strong academics, expanded offerings, the partnership with DMAC, partnership with Simpson, great administrators, teachers, support staff. The SRO, the school resource officer, got very positive comments, up and down. In fact, he was in the hallway, and Kim and I both talked to him at different times and had a real nice conversation. He seems to love the job, which is awesome, awesome. Specially designed instruction and supports for all learners. You know, again, big school, small town feel. Leaders and directors in the programs, the buildings, have autonomy, but yet they're still part of a great leadership group that are very collaborative and very cohesive. They talked about lifelong friendships that are developed with teachers and staff and families that continue on. Highly regarded fine arts program and orchestra, and that should actually include athletic programs. That was very positive overall as well. Coaches especially, coaches and directors that lead and support those programs. The master contract with permissive language, I will admit, that came from the teacher group, surprise, surprise. And also the contract negotiations start next week, or next year, I think. Yep, so. Characteristics that they want to see in their next superintendent. You know, Art's name came up probably in almost every group in some fashion as a very positive, that he has done a great job. And people are sorry to see him go. So some of the things are, you know, strong communicator with a focus on clarity, skilled in all forms of technology. I mean, all the words that you've already put into your guidelines. You know, visionary, trustworthy, honest, approachable, good listener, collaborator. I need to slow down. I'm sorry. I'm rushing. I shouldn't be rushing. High character, they're involved in the community, active and engaged. Character, high, They want to see someone that will support all the programs that are currently in place and continue those. They want someone that is present and visible, in the buildings and in the community. I mean, Art has obviously done a good job of that. When they talked about how Art writes a birthday note, handwritten birthday note for every employee, it's like, for this size of a district, that's pretty incredible. And that he writes notes to, a lot of the kids and people for successes. I don't know that can be counted on in the next person. Creative problem solver, innovative, accountable to people and willing to hold people accountable. And I think you guys want that too. There's probably not much in here that you aren't aware of or agree with. Servant leader, skills at mediating difficult expectations in a calm demeanor. I mean, you guys have a lot going on, and those qualities are going to be helpful. Someone who understands the community's desires, but discerns how it aligns with state and federal guidelines, regulations, etc. Willing to have the crucial conversations, high-stake conversations, experience with negotiations, and strives to make everyone feel valued, appreciated, unites everyone around a common purpose. Number 4, what are the most significant district, community, or state issues the selected person will face and need to deal with in order to be effective immediately? Shortage of people, lots of different areas. Redistricting of elementary and class sizes. That came up, several groups, redistricting of elementaries, because as I understand it, one's overcrowded maybe, or getting close, and another one isn't. And so that's something that people think needs to be done. The mascot logo identity of the district is something that came up in almost every group. Literature and book controversies. Ensuring every student has a positive student-to-student interaction regardless of background, growing with a growing at-risk population. The mental health of students, staff, really everybody was a concern. Need to continually upgrade facilities. The high school was mentioned the most, but it was also mentioned that some of the elementary schools maybe haven't had as much done to them over time, and that, need to keep an eye on them as well.
We just spent a lot of money on them.
You guys are ahead of the game. The board. The board is recently elected. I think I maybe said at one point the inexperience of the board when they were saying something, and they corrected me and said, no, not inexperience of the board, because they have a lot of life experiences, just a board that has been newly elected. And so, there's recognition of that. Equity, balance different levels of values across the district from conservative to liberal, and establish a process to prioritize the distribution of resources. Now, unfortunately, the online survey results did not get into Kim and my inbox until today. And I was at a funeral all day. And so Kim went through them. Our office goes through them first to make sure that there's not any people that are specifically named. We don't change editing, we don't change spelling and grammar and all that. But if there's people that are specifically named, especially in a negative light, we do take that out. But otherwise, we don't. So Kim went through it, and as I was driving from Story City to Greenfield, and then after that at my mom's, and before I came over here, Kim went through and basically pulled out the things that were the most common from that. And there's about 4 or 5 things that, it might still be a small percentage, but they were listed 4 or 5 or 6 times by the different groups. And so one of those was a need for a strategic long-term plan that has clear articulated goals 5 to 10 years out. And that comment came from the administrators, the community, and the teachers. Another one is favoritism to certain groups and individuals. That one came from administrators, teachers, and community. The third one is bullying, racism, lack of embracing diversity. That came from teaching staff and community. And the last one was cliques within the community, the haves and the have-nots, and that came from the community and the teachers. You will get a copy of all 70 pages of both what we gathered and what was on the online survey. I think by the end of the week I'll have it digitally and I can share it with these ladies. But there will be a printed copy that will be in your hands so that you guys can look at those. And I can't tell you exactly when you'll get those, but I'm going to guess in the next couple weeks. So that's the report from the groups. Overall, I felt that they really supported what you guys were looking for when you put things together. So I'm going to stop for a minute, see if you have questions about anything before we go on.
Any questions?
Okay, very good. Okay, looking at the agenda, just quickly going down that now that you all have it in your hands. That was number one, discussion of groups as part of the interview day. Then we'll need to identify chairs for those groups. We'll talk about interview procedures. We may or may not talk about interview questions. I'll start that out. The reason why I say it that way, communication, compensation package, confidentiality. The last three are pretty well already done, I think. So, starting out, discussion of groups as part of the interview day. When I was here before, you guys had expressed an interest in having mixed groups as part of the interview day. And I talked to Rob about it. And by mixed groups, not just administrators in one group, teachers in another group, et cetera, on down the line. It sounds like you guys have used that practice here in the district some, and a desire to continue doing that. The way I understood it, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that you would be okay if the students had their own group, if you include the students, that the parents and community and/or business would be separate, and then the administrators, the teachers, and support staff would all be in the mixed groups. Is that what you want to do?
Here's like, we're running into some issues with the amount of questions. If we had them all separated, or separate groups but mixed, it's going to get really, really time consuming.
I think that sounds good. It's a good way to create mixed groups, but also or be better scheduling wise as far as the groups that are combined, I think.
If there are mixed groups, you mean, or if they are not?
Kind of like what
if they are mixed groups, kind of how you laid it out versus having like administrators, teachers, and students. Like if you have students together, what was the other group? Community and business together, and then teachers and administrators and support staff together. I think logistically that makes sense, and it's still a way to make it a mixed group.
Okay, let me pass out. This is it has two different schedules, one on each side with each of those different options.
The students will be a lot more willing to ask questions and talk about it. Adults aren't around too.
Correct.
The students will be intimidated if they're okay with
Right.
it. They're not gonna.
Well, and you have to decide for sure whether you want students involved. We like to have them
I'd
involved.
like to have them involved, yeah.
Because they typically are one of the groups that sells the district as much as anything with the candidates. If there's enough of those, maybe, I don't remember how many. I didn't know for sure how many people would be here tonight. Maybe, is there one for? Okay, so looking on this, look at the one that says mixed groups. This is what I penciled out that it could look like with mixed groups. So the candidates would arrive at and this is for the finalists only. Do I need to stop,
No,
Rob,
no,
and
keep going.
kind of explain the process starting from when we meet until the semifinals, until this? Or are we good to go ahead with this now?
Lyle, just so you know, we have Tim on the phone.
Oh, hi, Tim.
So we're making sure that he has the documents.
Okay. Okay. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime.
Sounds good.
I think you're okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. By the way, Chloe Bowdler said to say hi today. I saw him at that funeral. So on the mixed group side, the candidate would arrive in the morning, would do some sort of tour of the schools and district by someone. You know, maybe Art does that, if you guys are okay with that, then he gets a chance to talk to him as well, as he takes him from building to building. Depending upon, I mean, there's not a lot of time for huge tours of the buildings, but at least to look around. Then 10 o'clock would be the first mixed group. Again, some teachers, administrators, and support staff. Then we'd go to students. Then they would have a lunch break, which would be on their own, gives them a chance to regroup a little bit. And then 1:45 and then 3:30 would be two more groups, mixed groups. On this particular schedule, I have combined the parent, community, and business. And then a break for supper, and that can happen a lot of ways. Sometimes the board president or a couple board members would have a meal with them. If they have a spouse or significant other, it's an informal time to visit a little bit. You can do it, everybody together, but there's questions and concerns that even though it's supposed to be informal, would you violate open meeting laws? It would be a question if everybody's here. And then at 7:30, you would actually have your formal interview with the candidate, and you finish that up that night. So that would be the one with the mixed groups. You guys have done this before. I guess for me, the things that I want to point out, you need to make sure that if you do that you've got good coverage for any teachers, because teachers are going to be missing classes 2, 3, 4 days in a row, depends on how many people you choose to interview. And from what I heard after the conversation with Rob, you think you can find enough subs to do that. But that's an issue there. Also, regardless, you're going to have to find coverage for some support staff, assuming they're coming out of the classroom or the office. I mean, if they are directors, if they're a transportation director, if they're food service director, those people still have responsibilities too. They just have to be covered.
So in those mixed groups, 1, 2, and 3, that would be mixed of the admin team, teachers, and support staff.
That's how I understood you would like you want me to at least pencil it out that way.
Yep. You guys good with that? Okay.
And I assume we want the same groups to meet with all of the finalists.
The group should be made up of the same people
Okay.
every day.
Okay.
And that's another just aspect of it that you have to plan for, with teachers being out of the classroom. If you look at the one on the back, the teachers would be after school, and so none of them would be out of class during that time. But if there's 3 groups that has teachers in it, we can't all meet after school.
What are your people miss that much? Will they feel behind? Like, I know a lot of them don't get subs because it's so hard to, what are your thoughts on that?
So if we happen to have 3 candidates, that's 3 days in a row.
At the same time?
There's one mixed group at 3:30, 10.
18 as of when I last looked this morning.
Mimi, what are your thoughts on coverage?
What's that, Max?
18.
You know, our buildings have been doing a good job of getting things covered. How many teachers are you wanting on each mixed group? That makes a difference.
Right, because we're not gonna pull all from one building.
But it would be the same people every day.
Right.
Right.
But if it's-
I mean,
And it's just for like an hour.
like at least one person
For,
from each building?
for secondary people, it's gonna be the same class, well,
One teacher
all of
from
them,
each-
they're gonna miss the same portion of their regular schedule every day for 2 to 3 days, 4 if you choose 4 people.
Elementary. It'll hit some recess time probably at 10 and 1:45, but, so they might only have to cover for maybe half an hour, and then the 3:30 mixed group, they'd be done, so it'd just be the 2 times then, the 10 and the 1:45?
But then 3 days in a row.
Right,
Or
I know,
4
I mean, I know, I'm just,
What are your thoughts? What do you think?
I mean, if you think of mixed groups, are you thinking you want one from each building in each group? Okay.
I would say at least one, well, yeah, there's
Yeah,
6
well-
buildings.
maybe pull a, I just need to have.
6.
How large do we want our groups?
10 to 12 is a good number.
So if 6 of those in each group.
So that'd be,
Is there support staff from this building that can help offset some of that stuff? I mean, I know you guys are probably needing to be,
Well, if we're doing mixed groups, then we're involved in those mixed groups as well.
It's gonna be bigger than 12 then.
but are the two
Well,
of you?
not all admin
Gonna be in
are gonna
every
be able to be
single one?
involved.
Just a couple support staff?
No, the mixed groups will be comprised of administrators, so that, I mean,
So they'll be in the groups.
I didn't know if you'd be in the groups or if you were just gonna be a part of the whole process. I guess that's my question.
I think between hiring subs and using the instructional coaches, and they also have a list of coverage that they work their way through, that might require pulling maybe some at-risk teachers at times, or the teacher librarians.
Yeah.
But each building has a list that they can rotate through to have
Okay.
people help cover.
Okay.
It's very short term.
Right, and even
Just
so, for
3
example,
days.
Stacy Evans, our mentor coordinator, she might be able to come in at that point too and help.
Okay.
and if it's one from each building at each time slot, it shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be too bad, okay.
yeah, if it was just one from each building, that would be easily doable to cover for that. I'm just thinking 2 or 3 would be, but that's too many people. That's too many people.
I will say that the teachers that were in there, especially at the elementary level, I think there was as many instructional coaches as there were classroom teachers in the group that we met with. So, I mean, instructional coaches theoretically could be a part of it too, as long as you feel that they are representative enough of the building and the district that, for that process.
So yes, stick with the mixed groups. You
I
think
say,
teachers
yeah,
will be
I
okay?
like this.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, in looking at your March schedule, you have a regular board meeting at 5:30 on March 8th, and that's the week that we tentatively have those scheduled for. And if you have 3, I mean, it can be on other nights, but often it would be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. Your part isn't till 7:30 as far as the formal interview, so it could be after your meeting, so that would still work. You would already be here that night. But, you know, you guys need to commit to 3 nights if that's how many finalists you choose as well. Just to keep that in mind, you know.
I guess at
The
least it's already
8th, 9th, and 10th.
taken up.
You what?
At least it's already knocking the night out there with our
Right.
board meeting being on it, so.
Right. I mean, depending on what you do for supper, you might have to adjust a little bit with 1 or 2 people going out.
And why do Mondays not work?
They can.
It can work. We
I mean,
could do a Monday,
yeah, you could do-
Wednesday, Thursday if we
You could do
needed.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. But you're already gonna be here on Tuesday night. And
Well, to be completely honest, there may be times that not all of us can be here for every one of these things too, and I think that we're just gonna, I mean,
ideally, everybody's here, but I understand. As long as you have to have confidence in the whole group then.
right.
You know, for instance, I know that the Saturday is a problem for you. And,
Which Saturday?
the semifinals.
Oh, okay.
You know, and that's fine. I mean, there's some districts that actually have a subcommittee do the semifinals, and then the whole board does the finalists. But, I mean, you can do it however you want, but
Well,
the
I
more
think-
consistency, the better.
And these will be recorded. So if anybody, I keep the recording, so if you wanted to come in and listen to it in my office, you could. So,
Because they will all be closed session.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so,
So we're good with this calendar.
With that schedule.
Or the schedule, excuse me, not this calendar, the schedule.
And John and Mimi, I'll work with you, and you guys will decide, I guess, who does the tour and you know, how extensive that is, that type of thing. And we can change that to 8 o'clock if it's better, if you need a little more time in there.
I'm okay with Art doing that if everybody else thinks that's appropriate.
That's fine,
Yeah.
if Art wants to.
I think that that's a common thing that happens.
It is.
It
It doesn't
usually
always
is,
happen,
yeah.
but
Usually the schools I've been in, the president superintendent brings the candidates around. That's
Yeah.
something I've always seen.
yeah. I don't know if I'd say usually, but I'd say it's fairly common. So I think that's a good choice in Art's case.
So do we need to figure out the days of that week then next, after we've set the schedule?
Ideally, yes.
Okay, so, okay, look at that week, you guys, then, the week of the 7th, is it?
Yeah, the 8th is, yeah, the 7th is a Monday.
March 7th. What nights of that week? Let's shoot to see if we can get everybody on the same nights. So Tuesday, yes, everybody will be here, right? So Tuesday the 8th for sure.
I've blocked that week off, so I can do whatever.
Okay. Ryan, you're still good, you're not good on Monday, of course.
Wednesday, Thursday, I'm fine. Tuesday. What time? We're at 7:30.
7:30, and your board meeting's at 5:30. You're already here.
Oh, you want Wednesday?
But it's fine.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And I can make Monday work with a one-time deal.
Good.
Yeah. That's right, it was a one-time thing.
Hey Tim, how about you?
Do Monday and Tuesday.
What date are we talking about, Rob?
Monday, March 7th through March 11th. What 3 days that week? We know for sure Tuesday the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, I can pretty much make it work in it's the evenings or?
It's not till 7:30 at night.
Yeah, I can make any 3 days work. I heard you guys talking about a meeting on the 5th, that's a Saturday, right?
Yeah, we'll come to that here next. We'll try to do these 3 dates here first, Tim.
Yep, so whatever you guys pick, I can accommodate that.
So what if we do Monday the 7th, Tuesday the 8th? What's next? Thursday the 9th, or Thursday the 10th?
I don't know if I can do that night, that's Maddie's birthday.
The 10th?
Yeah.
The 9th?
The 9th, I can do, if you guys, I know we typically don't do Wednesdays, but.
I will tell
Wednesday
you,
you're working?
I work Saturdays and Wednesdays, but I can figure something out.
I can't be here the night of the 9th if you want me to be here to help make the call at the end of it, because my wife has appointments at Mayo Clinic on the 8th, wait a minute, let me check. It's an afternoon of one day and the morning of the next day. Wednesday and Thursday, so I could not be here on, I better get the right one. I can't be here on the night of the 9th because I will be in Rochester, Minnesota. I can come in electronically. We usually try to be here the night of your last interview for your deliberations to help guide the process, to help you go through the input from the groups. And then if you want us to call and make the offer and do some negotiation with them. So I'm sorry that I can't, that's the only night I can't be here, I think.
Is the 9th.
Is the 9th. But I could do it electronically.
That's
a
a
Wednesday.
I can make the 10th work.
How old's the child?
Well, she could be 14.
Okay.
She passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Monday the 7th, Tuesday the 8th, Thursday the 10th, is that correct? For everyone? Okay.
And Monday's at 7 o'clock?
Each one's at 7:30.
7:30, okay, I thought you said 7, sorry.
Tuesday you'll be here though.
Tuesday will already be here because of
Yeah,
our
I
board
mean,
meeting.
yeah, I knew that one, but I
bring it
thought
to-
somebody said 7 at one point for Monday, and okay.
Okay.
So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
How do we make that work if we're here at the board meeting and that's a meal, depending on who chooses to do the meal with the candidate?
So you don't want all of us? That's what.
Post it,
Well-
does that make it okay? I mean, since it's a regular meeting.
I mean,
You could.
yeah, and typically, that has not been an issue in the past when I've dealt with it. They've had the whole board there.
Okay.
And it, and
You just,
you just have to know that you can't discuss anything.
That's right.
besides your, and if we do a meal with them, you can have it come in, we can have it come in here, we can do, we can have food service cater it. They do a nice job.
I think that's a great idea, if you have the capabilities to do it that way.
For food
Just,
service.
just so you don't have people in your community that call foul because of,
That you're all meeting together.
that's right.
But as long, it's kind of like other things that you might be at with other people, you just don't discuss board
It's just not gonna be-
business, right?
It's just not gonna be fair for
It's
the
gonna be-
person on Tuesday night, because they're not gonna have the whole board. Because
Well,
the
maybe
board's gonna
Unless we
be,
get done early.
You just have to.
Or
do
you
your
just
best to be done in time.
designate one person to do
We start at 5 maybe
We
then?
could start at 5 and try to, and you know, if we can try to really not do a presentation that night, really keep it kind of honed down.
Yeah.
We possibly could do that.
Which means you might have to have your second meeting that month instead of canceling it, which you talked about a little while ago. Yeah.
I'm gonna put it in as a 5 o'clock meeting in my calendar now.
Tuesday
The 8th.
the 8th. Did you hear that, Tim? We'll probably make Tuesday the 8th a 5 o'clock meeting, board meeting, just to try to push through it faster. So, okay, so if that's the case, everybody needs to be here at 6:15 then,
Well, you're gonna be here at 5 anyway.
I guess on the other two
Monday.
nights,
Oh,
Monday and
Oh.
Thursday.
Monday and Thursday, they need to be here at
yeah, and
6:15
if,
then.
that one, if someone misses, it's not as
Not as-
big of a deal as if you
Yeah.
miss the questioning part of the interview.
Okay, okay.
So like, Ryan, if he works Monday night, the
What is-
questioning will not start till 7:30 then? Like, are we really having, so we have an hour and or an hour and 15 minutes just for dinner?
And we can change that to 7:15 or,
You can make that-
One time is doable. First I have some leave and I have a good reason, I can make that.
Okay. So we need to switch those to 6:15
6:15, yeah.
in our calendar.
If you're able to make it at 6:15 with the dinner, with the person we're interviewing, that would be great. If not, be here at 7:30,
On Monday.
Monday and Thursday, each night, yeah. And then for the board night, be here at 5. Otherwise, be here at 6:15 or 7:30. I'll just put 6:15.
How long do the actual interviews typically last?
with the board, an hour to an hour and 15 or so, maybe an hour and a half. You know, it depends on how talkative they are at the end of the day after a full day of meetings.
No, I feel sorry for them. I'm like, oh, that's a horrible day.
And then how about that Thursday evening when it's us making a final decision then?
Well, you have a choice. Most districts will do the deliberation that night and make a decision. We make a phone call, make an offer, a tentative offer pending final background checks and all that stuff. And then and we notify the others, et cetera. But, you know, you don't have to decide that night. You could set another meeting so you guys have a chance to really deliberate. I think it's best to do it when it's fresh, as fresh as you can, but you guys have that choice.
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought you'd have to be here all night.
I feel like that deliberation in all of the hires that I've made, it's pretty cut and dry when
You pretty much know by that.
when you've seen 3 or 4 candidates, you can
Okay.
eliminate a couple and then you're like, well,
Okay.
it's this, and I mean, you can kind of discuss that, but it doesn't typically, I could be wrong.
Well,
It doesn't
I've
typically-
experienced it both ways. I've experienced it where it's done in a half hour, 45 minutes at tops. I've experienced it where it's 3 hours and they're still struggling. And I think the better job that we do of providing you quality candidates, I think it will be more challenging, but that does still happen. So, I recommend just staying in closed session. You actually probably would have 2 closed sessions on the agenda that night, one with the candidate and then one for deliberation after that, for the deliberation. And what happens during that meeting is, after that last one, you guys will do your own deliberation, and then we will open envelopes from all the different stakeholder groups. The input, the stakeholder groups, we ask 2 questions. The first question is, what are the strengths of this candidate? What do you like? The second is, what questions or concerns you have? We very clearly tell them not to rank order the candidates. And there's really good reason for that, because if the administrators say candidate number 1 is their first choice, and you guys choose candidate number 3, they're gonna think that you're not listening to them. But if they provide you what they see as the strengths of each candidate, and you take that into account as you do your deliberations, and the same with the questions and concerns, that's how our process provides the input to you from those groups.
Okay.
So then do you see this working, so then after your deliberation in closed session, do we come out and do they make it, they have approved the contract?
Not a contract, but approve an offer pending final background check. And that final background check is the full criminal, educational, and criminal, financial.
Those envelopes you talked about opening up, that's each night?
No, it's only at the end.
Oh, at the very end?
So you'll open all 3 for each of the groups that night. So that part of the process actually takes a fair amount of time too, just to listen to what all the groups have to say.
Why don't we open them like after we get done interviewing each night?
We really want you guys to have your input on all 3 candidates before you hear what they have to say about all 3 candidates.
Okay.
Okay, so are we good with that?
Yep.
One of the things that we need is, we need a chairperson for each of the groups. So, for your mixed groups, as you put them together, and, I think that's probably gonna fall on you two, to a large degree, to get those people pulled together. You can include Annette, whoever else you want to include in the process. Even Art, it's up to you. Then one person needs to be identified as the chairperson, and we will meet with that person before we meet with you on March 1st. And we will go over the directions a little bit more detailed of what I just told you guys about what their responsibility is.
So that would be 3 mixed groups, a student group. Would the student group would they have a chairperson?
Yes.
Okay. And then the community and parent group?
Yep.
So we'd need 5 leaders.
Right. The other part of that is, those groups, they can come up with their own questions, or we can provide some sample questions for them to pick from. So I can send you sample questions, or however you want to handle that. Once those groups get put together, they should have, I'm going to say, 15 to 18 questions total, at the most. And you know what questions they can and can't ask. I've got a sheet I can send you, but, those groups need to be made aware of the questions that they can't ask. And I will give a copy of that to the chair people when we meet on March 1st also. So, do you want me to provide some samples, or how do you guys want to do that?
So do you envision these 5 different groups asking varied questions, or some of the same questions? Obviously.
with your mixed groups, those three mixed groups could all ask the same questions, but the different people in different groups might have different things that they want to ask. You know, typically, with the homogeneous groups that we use, you know, the parents and teachers and all those, they want kind of their own set. So, it can be however they want. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you want them to ask the same question, each group to ask the same set of questions to all three of them? Because that gets old for the candidates to hear the same question and see, what did I say to this group? You know, I mean, I don't think it's a good idea. I think they need three different sets of questions.
Yeah, each group would ask the same question, so they would hear the same responses from each candidate, but each group has different questions.
Right.
And I think the only mixed group that we truly have is the teachers and the administrators and the support staff. So they all have a similar lens, and I think we can come up with 15 to 18 questions that would apply and would be relevant to that specific group.
So 45 to 54 different questions.
Yep. And you can have, I mean,
They'd
you
be
can have
similar.
a leadership themed question, a communication themed question. It's not the same question in each group, but some of those themes that you can have in each of the groups. So then each group does get to hear a response like that. So, I mean, I don't know that we're going to pull the groups together and have them come up with their own questions. I just don't know that that's the best use of their time.
And I'm not suggesting that.
Okay.
You know, and sometimes that's done by email by the group chair. Sometimes the group chair just does it. But again, I've got a lot of sample questions that I can provide.
I mean, if you want to send some sample questions to me and I can help kind of divvy them out, and here's this group's questions and here's this group's question. And if someone in the groups has specific questions they want to ask, I can either swap one out for that group, but I can get their feedback too and get some buy-in.
That seems like a lot of questions. I mean, well, what's 15 times 5?
Yeah.
75.
75 before they've even hit the board.
Yeah.
Or they've even hit talking, I mean, that's.
So 12 to 15 questions is maybe a better number. I mean, it depends upon how talkative the candidate is. And they vary a lot. But your point is still well taken, Sue.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was applying at Drake for one of their positions, and by about 4, I felt like my brain was going to explode, and I had the 2 most important interviews still to follow. And so we all know brain fatigue and brain that, and I know that's what makes a leader and what doesn't. I just think 75 questions is a lot of questions, and they haven't even gotten to
you guys.
To us yet.
Yeah, I agree. Especially at the end of the day.
We can communicate on that if you want me to. I mean, we'll work that through.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I mean, having just done the principal interviews, I think we had 10 questions, and it was a good 45 minutes, and it kind of gave them some time to transition. It gave them some time to ask questions back. It felt, even though the questions are scripted and you don't really want to go off that script, it is nice for the candidate to have an opportunity to ask that group some specific questions too. So it does feel a little bit more like a dialogue, but it is taxing for sure on those candidates to have that whole day of interviews. So I'm really glad that lunch is on their own, gives them a little bit of a breather, but it's a tough day for sure.
Okay, can we talk a little bit about the semifinal?
That's the Saturday?
That's the Saturday.
Okay.
And not all schools do this, but I really think it's going to be valuable for you guys because, you know, I know that there's a lot of quality applicants in the pool. And this gives you a chance, you know, preferably face-to-face to meet them. And this is nothing more than an outline. It can be adjusted one way or the other. And I have them an hour apart so that it's not walk out. I mean, 45 minutes is gonna be enough. Your questions for this are gonna be fewer. I sent you a copy of that, and some of you sent suggestions. I've revised that. Before we get into the questions, let's just talk a little bit more about this.
This is when you work on this day, Sue, too. What time do you go to work usually?
Oh, if it's up to me, I'd start this at 7 a.m. to get in and get it out. But it doesn't matter.
And we can do
I
that.
start work at about 5:30 in the morning.
Doesn't bother me.
So,
And we can do whatever times you want. This is just a starting point.
Are you guys good with starting at 7 on a Saturday? I'm okay.
Depends upon the candidates, you know, you've got to have candidates here too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it depends on how far they've got to travel and, you know.
Sure.
Well,
If we had a close candidate, maybe.
We have to
Maybe
put
we should
them up.
start at 8.
You should.
We should put
7
them up.
seems early on
Oh.
Saturday, but.
If we put them up the night before.
I think it'd be pretty tough to tell them they need to be here for it.
I'm kidding.
What about 8?
That's
8's more doable.
whatever.
We could even get rid of the breaks. Yep. Just hammer through.
Pretty
Want
protein
lunch
bar.
then.
We'll bring a lunch in of some kind. you
Yeah,
know.
just have a 20-minute lunch break.
Yeah, but then you can get rid of your 4 o'clock break so you can get done.
So,
We start at 8.
so
8.
instead of, so leave the 12 o'clock break there and then at 12:30 start, and go 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30?
9, 10, 11.
Candidate 4 can be at 11.
And
And then
12:30,
Yep.
1:30, 2:30?
12:30 and 1:30. No 2:30.
5 would be what? 12:30?
No,
Yep.
12:30 or 1:30?
12:30. We'll just
10
do a
to 5?
half-hour lunch break for us.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I missed the 8 o'clock.
And then we'll do the last candidate at 1:30.
I gotta take off quick. Sorry, I'll see you next time.
You good with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good with anything you guys decide. I'm
Okay.
flexible.
I recognized you today.
Yeah, well,
How's that getting done at 1:30?
it's hard when you see somebody out of place.
So you said the
Gym
last
close.
one's at
Yeah.
1:30,
I'll see you
not
next time.
2:30?
All right, thanks.
2:30. So then 2:30 would be the board deliberations. How's that? Better?
I can only do some stuff in the morning.
Okay.
Joey's in well, we have volleyball, I work, and Joey's in the middle, that's middle school play. And my parents are traveling in for it, and it's my dad's birthday, and, yeah, so, it's just a lot. But I have to give some time with the family, so I will be for the first couple, and then I trust my board members, so.
Well, we would do it here, I think.
And those are the ones that you'll tape, Jonathan?
Yes, that will also be closed session,
This would be
So
closed
you
session
could
as
listen
well.
to
because those are not,
I'm not worried.
even semifinalists,
I trust you guys.
Even the semifinals.
even semifinalist names are not released
Okay,
as public. Only once they're finalists are their names actually released.
okay. All right,
Okay?
so from 8 to 2:30? Or
To
really, it'll
2:30
probably get over about, what, 3:30? Does that those deliberations last about an hour?
I'd say try to do 45 minutes or so.
Okay, great.
That gives you guys a little bit of a chance to do your own thoughts and deliberation. I will provide a rubric for you that you can use if you want to, based upon your criteria. So,
So Johnny, you would take care of, like, not you personally, but having food service?
We can do meals on Saturday for lunch,
Okay,
and then the other 3 nights for dinner. So, we can talk about it, I'll ask Abby if they've got something different, we don't want the same thing every night. But it is good, I mean, they do a nice job in catering, so.
yeah.
You want us to be here at 7:30 that Saturday morning to get ready, or 7:45?
that's up to you guys. I mean, I won't be here unless you really feel I need to be here. I mean, you guys, you've got great organization people. I'll work with the candidates to make sure that they know the time schedule.
Yeah, I'd say
So-
7:45.
Yeah.
7:45.
Yeah, be here at 7:45.
So this would be So as I think of this as meetings, is this one big long meeting, or is this?
I would say it's probably 6 different meetings.
And actually 7 if you do the deliberation piece.
That's true. At least there's a schedule for it, John.
All right.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is interview questions. And before we talk about them, I guess I want to ask this question. Do you want the candidates to have a chance to know what the questions are before the interviews or not?
Maybe some of them. I don't think they have to know all of them. I didn't know all the questions when I get hired.
Typically, we do not. Go ahead, Mac, I'm sorry.
I didn't know any.
Yeah.
Any of the jobs that I've.
And the reason I asked that question is if we talk about it tonight in this open session, it's an open record.
And it's recorded.
And then whoever does their homework would have an advantage because they would be able to get what those questions are. Our general practice is not to do it so that they know what their questions are. I'm like you, I didn't know what they were, and I don't think that they should. But that also means that we need to zero in on those questions without breaking open meeting laws. And which I think that we've done with the Survey Monkey. A couple of you, I think, were not able to do that. I have results of that, of the top ones, but frankly, I would rather try to do this in another way without violating open meeting laws so that candidates would know what they are.
That can't be a closed meeting.
It can't because you don't have a person.
Well, I think there's a fine line there, John, and the reason I say that is I was talking to one of our consultants yesterday who just went through this same thing with another district, and they ran it past their school attorney, and their school attorney said that you should do that in closed session. You're right, it's not a specific individual, but I think that we should make sure that we do it without violating open meeting laws and still do it privately. And so I think I have a way to do that, but I would talk to you about that afterwards, and you.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
My input on this would be that I think it would be ideal to send them the topics. Like, there should be some threads, some overarching threads of the topics that we would be addressing so that they kind of know to be prepared to speak on those types of topics. But the specific questions, I would agree, I'd kind of like to hold those close so they weren't prepped answers. That's just my input. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Tim, and I will follow that up by saying this. The general themes that they should be aware of are the themes based upon the criteria that you guys set, plus the general overall management work of a superintendent. So they should be ready to talk about vision, about finances, about curriculum, about communication. And
leadership.
And so I think what you say is accurate, but I think that if they are quality candidates, they're going to know that much already without sending it to them.
Well, if they're doing their homework and they're listening to this board session, then you just give them the topics. Good work.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely. So are we in agreement that we don't want to go ahead with the questions tonight in open session? Okay, all right.
If we want to buy a piece of real estate, we can go into closed session to have community,
That doesn't involve.
But that doesn't
Oh,
involve
that's
this.
under.
There's specific
Yeah,
rules
there's-
and language that Jonna is concerned about.
21.5 in the Iowa code is where we have to live by, and there's like 10 things you can go into closed session for. So, I pulled it up, I got it here, so we can talk about it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, do you have any additional thoughts on this, Jonna?
No, I'd be curious to see how to do this, because that's the concern I had, is as I look at this, I don't see where it fits. So if it fits somewhere, I'm fine with that.
Well, okay, I'm going to talk about the Survey Monkey that was already done. That was done in total well, it wasn't total anonymity because I know which of you completed it and which of you didn't. I have the top group from those, so I think we could do another one of those and narrow it down. And included would be the ones that people suggested from you guys. Because I have all of it right here. I'm not gonna pass it out because I don't want to break the laws.
And these are questions for the
These are the
semifinalists?
questions that you will ask, no, these are questions you will ask in the final interviews.
Final interview.
The questions for the semifinals, I was thinking that I printed that also. I adjusted based upon what people talked about, and if I send those out to you and you just reply to me, you're not breaking open meeting laws.
I agree.
So that's what we will do. I will send all these out to you with some questions. You just need to get on your email and do what I ask you to do as quickly as you can. And then basically we'll send out what I see as the final common, what you agree on are the most common ones.
So I have a quick question really
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
If you send those to our email, those are open records as well, and people can come in and ask for those.
They could, but I don't know that they could get them by then, could they?
I don't think the candidates wouldn't do that, and that's who we're most concerned about.
I'm just saying hypothetically.
What's that?
It's a Survey Monkey,
If we do a Survey Monkey,
that wouldn't be.
That
Oh, they wouldn't see
I
the
mean,
email.
I can ask my office to
I'm
do.
just saying, if he emails us the questions, somebody could come
Oh,
in and
oh,
open
you're
records
saying
request our
the
email.
final list of questions at the
Yeah,
end.
so what I will do is I'll ask our office, and they will probably be willing to do another Survey Monkey with, for instance, the first section, Leader of Leaders. I'm proposing that there be a total of 6 questions, and right now, there's 8. So I think it's gonna funnel down fairly quickly, and by doing it a Survey Monkey, then I get results that look like this, and have the numbers on how many people selected it. And that's how I got it, the ones that you selected, most of the 5 of you who were able to do it before.
Okay.
So,
Are you guys good with that? Taking another survey and then it whittles it down?
I couldn't get it to work when I did it. It wouldn't let me open the link.
really?
No.
Okay, next time, email me, call
I sent you an
me.
email, because I couldn't get either, but then I sent you an email.
That's right.
And you sent it to me again, and it worked that time.
Yeah, so if it doesn't come through, let me know. And, you've got my number, you can call me, you can text me, you can email me, whatever.
When do you think that'll come to us, so we kind of have a heads up?
I know our office is pretty busy because they've got a lot of searches nationwide going on, but I would hope, today's Tuesday, I would hope by Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
No more than there are, and it's a cut and paste. Well, all I have to do is send them this document, they copy and paste it and put it in there again.
Okay. And so that's for the final interview?
That's for the final interview questions.
Okay.
And
That's fine. That sounds like a good plan. Then nobody knows them up front.
I thought that I had made copies of the, here are the semifinal ones. And so there's 10 of those. And I probably switched out, 3 or 4 or 5 of them based upon other things that you guys suggested.
Okay.
That are in these, and, so there's 10 of them for those semifinal interviews. And the first one's tell us about yourself, and the last one is what questions do you have? Pretty standard on that, right?
You're giving away all the secrets.
I wasn't worried about those 2. Okay. With that then, just communication. You already asked, as of today, we had 18 applicants. And I tried to let you know that usually the last week is half or more of them, and that's coming true again. I anticipate there's at least 2 or 3 or 4 other people that I've talked to that I thought and think that they were going to apply that are still getting it in. One of them called and asked me some questions today on my way over here. I was gonna do a breakdown, but because of that funeral, I can think of, out of the 18, I believe that there's at least 6 from out of state. From Nebraska, Idaho, Minnesota, Illinois, New Jersey, Arkansas. Of those, I think that 1 or 2, maybe 3, really have the qualifications and experience that we will look at them more. I would say that I think there was, out of the 17 or 18, when I looked yesterday, there was 6 of them that had no experience as an actual superintendent. But of those, there was 2 or 3 that had cabinet level positions in decent sized districts.
Am I allowed to ask a question about this or no?
Sure.
Did they
I'll
have?
tell you if I can't answer.
Good. Do they have Iowa ties, those out-of-state ones?
Some yes, some no.
Okay, okay, really, some no, not at all?
Yeah. I spent a half hour on the phone with one yesterday from out east that, actually, I guess he does. He says his wife has family here in Iowa, and he's got family in Illinois, but he spent most of his life on the East Coast.
You just see, because of everything happening in our world, people are just leaving the coast, and so it's just interesting to see if they had previous connections.
It varies a lot.
Interesting.
I mean, the one from Idaho, I have no clue. Why.
They want
But
to give up the mountains.
There's another one from out east that applies for every job that we have open. And, we're never going to look at him because of all the red and yellow flags that his application raises. No. I'm not saying any names. I'm just being general, but.
When will we be able to see those?
You will get the full list on March 1st. And actually on February 25th, you will get a link to look at the letter, the application, and what they've written.
February what?
February 25th, you'll get a link of the people that we see as the best fit. So let's say we end up with 22 applicants. I would guess that we're going to have 10 or less that you'll get a link for to look at more detail so that you have some idea about them going in. But once you get that, keep in mind, you've signed the confidentiality agreement. You can't talk to anybody else about them. I realize you're going to do your Google searches and all that kind of stuff, but you can't reach out to people that you think know them and say, hey, what do you know about this? That's part of that confidentiality.
So when we pull people from out of state, are we responsible for their transportation and their housing and their?
If someone is an interview finalist, yes, you would typically do that. I would say that if one of the out-of-state people from FAR is someone that you want to do for a semifinal interview, it's better if they're all in person or all electronic, but we can do electronic for one or more of them.
Okay.
From a practical standpoint.
Right, okay.
Keep in mind, we're doing this on a Friday, and the first interview for finalists will be the following Monday.
Saturday, we're doing it Saturday.
Or doing it on Saturday, so 2 days later. So when we talk to them, we prep them for that.
Oh, okay.
To tell them to be prepared, that if you are selected, these are the dates that you need to be aware of. If they're truly from that far away, we do have to think about it and plan ahead a little bit more.
Ron, what's our contingency if we get down to 4 and we only have 3 nights set aside?
Oh.
Well, you might also decide that you want to interview 7 for semifinal interviews.
We would have to probably go into the next week.
Just spring break.
Yeah, but we're all stuck here. None of us
It might not mean I want to sit in meetings, it might mean a personal break.
Do we want to tentatively just leave that Friday open in case?
The Friday of
It's Friday before spring.
Friday before spring break.
Or put that Wednesday back into play.
Yeah, but you can't, but
No, you're
that
right.
wouldn't be the final.
But it wouldn't be the final interview in that scenario.
We could put the Wednesday back into play just in case, and then if it's
Yeah,
not,
those
then
are-
it's not.
Those are final interviews, aren't they?
Yeah,
But the final
but right now, you don't have Wednesday as a final
We're just
interview.
doing Monday, Tuesday,
Oh,
Thursday.
okay, you're only worried about being here for the deliberation.
The final,
Okay,
final.
Okay.
Final.
But you're here for all of the meeting.
No, I'm typically not here unless you really want me here. There's no reason for me to sit through all those, because you guys manage the day schedule once we put it in place.
Okay.
I mean, I can be here, but it'll cost you. And I'm serious, the company charges extra for that. And, you know, you guys are more than capable of handling all that. And I can't be here a couple of those days anyway because of my wife's appointments. But yes, I only need to be here that last night.
So I suppose if push comes to shove and we have to do that Wednesday night.
If we want
Yeah.
4 candidates.
Yeah. If we want, yeah.
That also means 4 days for all the groups too.
Yeah. And we gotta really try to get this through.
I hope we get 20 applicants that are so awesome. It's hard. I mean, truly.
I
do.
know, yeah.
I see it as gonna be hard to get it narrowed down for your semifinals, based upon what I've seen so far.
So we do that on what day? We get it from the
On March-
20 down to the,
On March 1st,
on March.
I will meet with you, I think that's at 5 o'clock, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And
And that's the first time we'll see those files is when you're here, not.
that's the time you'll see the whole list. There will be the links to the people that we think best meet your criteria come on the 25th. So you'll have from the 25th to the 1st to look at those.
So no new information on the first, just.
We will share the information that we get from all the calls that we make
Oh, okay.
on those candidates. And, we usually make anywhere from, I'm going to say, 8 to 20 calls per person. And so we gather a lot of information. People that we've recruited to apply that really don't want it known so much, we don't usually get quite as many calls made on them because of confidentiality for them.
What time is it we started?
On the 5th, or the 1st, 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
Okay, any other questions about any of that stuff? I don't know that we really need to talk, I'm sorry, I didn't give any wait time.
No, that's okay.
That was a poor teacher of me.
That was the first.
Okay, compensation package, we've talked about the salary. I've got a copy of the contract. I'm assuming that you want to be pretty consistent with what you've done there, so I don't know that there's a need to talk much about that tonight unless anybody has a question or comment.
It's not that different from most contracts.
That's right.
It's very similar to what other superintendents are.
Yeah. The one thing that you guys do differently, not than everybody, but than some, that makes a difference for some, is the single health insurance versus the family health insurance. But your salary is higher, so that typically makes up for it.
How
But
much is the family for them to pay out of pocket
It'd be about 8,000 more.
a year?
Well, it depends on what plan they take, probably. It
Sure.
could be up to 12,000.
What's the high deductible one?
High deductible would be another, it'd be less than that, probably 6,000 to 7,000.
Okay, any other questions? Because that's really all I have for tonight.
You have that contract that we can see.
I can send it to you.
That's the contract for the superintendent.
Yeah, just Art's last contract, I can send to everybody.
Is there anything like new that we should be adding to those types of things that's changed over the last 7 years?
Honestly, Jonna knows as much about some of that as I do. I mean,
We do
pretty
have, it is
standard.
different with the insurance, but again, the thing, if you know, you want to have your salary higher than you want to use that as a high salary for IPERS.
Yeah.
IPERS is your retirement that you have for the rest of your life versus,
What about like the moving
The moving, that would be, we put that in there. It was in there for Art's first one. It isn't in there now, obviously.
Right.
So,
What do we want to do for that?
Well, you decide on the amount, when I was here before, I think you talked about that you would do a moving allowance if they moved into the district within a certain time period.
And it's reimbursable.
Yes, typically.
So that's not taxable.
They pay for it, and then you reimburse them up to whatever amount you choose.
For the exact amounts that they actually used to move.
Submit the invoices. I mean, vacation, all the different types of leave. Vacation is one of those that it's easy to bump because most people don't use it and it doesn't cost you anything. They're the only superintendent, so they still have their work to do. So I mean, that's an easy one to bump if somebody asks for more than what, I mean, as I recall, was it 20 days?
20 days up to 25, then I think, you get 1 day a year for the, up to next 5 more years. So it's pretty,
I mean, I've seen 15, I've seen 20, and I've seen 25 as far as vacation days. I always negotiated for 25 and never used them, but I had them if I was able to.
Well, the way that the whole admin package works is it's 20 the first year, 21 the next year, 23, or 22, 23, 24, 25, so.
So that's
Is that
standard.
like PTO days? Is that what that is?
Well, it's vacation only, so you have sick leave on top of that.
Oh, you have sick leave on top of that.
Sick leave and probably a couple personal days. And then family bereavement and, I mean, there's a whole lot of them. Anybody that's done negotiations knows that there's a whole bunch of them. If the wife of the third cousin wants removed,
We don't even have vacation days or sick days or.
But like you said, when you're the only one that does your job.
it's still there to do.
For health insurance, we're dental.
Yeah, exactly. Because then, it's all there when you come back.
Yeah. Okay, do you guys have anything else from me?
Nothing. Tim, anything?
What's this
I don't have anything, Rob. Thanks, Lyle.
You bet, Tim.
What's the confidentiality?
We need to adjourn.
I know. It's all right.
Oh, yeah.
That's cough medicine kicking in about that minute.
And so we don't need to address the confidentiality agreement?
You've already done that.
Oh, we have, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we signed it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
And that's what allows you to get that link on the 25th by
That's
doing
right,
that.
that's right,
So we just
okay.
need a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, and again, it wasn't attended, but we can say that we had everybody here. Then
Yeah,
Ben left at about 7:20.
Right. Everybody else was here.
Hey,
Tim
Rob.
by phone. Yep.
I got one thing. Can you is it possible that John could send out an update with all the meetings and the start times that we have? I caught a lot of them, but I'm not sure that I have every single one of the start times captured.
Okay.
Not sure she's gonna be able to do that.
Cross that out as well, yeah.
If it doesn't get.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion made by Zach to adjourn, seconded by Ryan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Yeah, Tim, she'll do that. Hey, did you say yes, John?
Yes, we are.